Well, hello there. In this video, I will show you a GPS tag module I created with an ESP-32 and a LoRa radio that lets my autonomous drone boat follow me around while I wingfoil. The GPS tag is a mini remote that lets me command the boat to hold position, follow me, return to launch, or turn the motors off for safety. Let's get into the details. I first built Nemo in 2017 as a 3D printed autonomous boat using an ardupilot autopilot. I turned it into a catamaran a few years later for better maneuverability doing harbor depth surveys. Last year I used it for a scientific research project measuring surface currents in the bay off of the Cal Maritime waterfront. And in this video, I've turned it into a robotic tracking platform with a small standalone module. So let's look at Nemo's starting point with its existing telemetry system, and then I'll show you the system that I made. So here it is connecting to the boat. This is the system. I've got the laptop.
Sensor lost.
I've got the controller that's running the telemetry as well. So this is the hotspot that my laptop's connected to. It takes forever to get the parameters. I got the Insta360 and the boat here. I don't know if you can hear me because of the wind. There's the button. Alright, ready to go. Here is the system that I added. If I come in here, you can see the handheld part. It's got the buttons, it's got a power switch and GPS antenna and LoRa antenna on top. It's not waterproof, but it goes in the waterproof bag. And then on the boat side, we've got the flight controller here, the autopilot, and this is the LoRa module that's talking to the GPS tag. Its antenna is here, and it's just got 4 wires that go to the flight controller. There's power, ground, receive, and transmit serial lines. So pretty simple install on the boat and pretty simple module. So I took the screws out, and here's the GPS tag module. You can see the switch and the GPS antenna and the LoRa antenna, 4 buttons on a pad. If I flip it over, we've got the battery here that's charged by this, as long as I remember to turn the switch on. There's the rest of the GPS, the rest of the power switch. The antenna is part of the ESP-32 LoRa module, and that's about it. There's a connector down here from the keypad, and a bunch of resistors that do the voltage dividing are in there as well. I don't know if you can see them, but so that's all there is to it. And then I do have this waterproof giant case that it goes inside. The system is built around 2 ESP-32 LilyGo LoRa modules that talk to each other to send the data. So the GPS tag sends its position and the mode that you've chosen to the boat over the LoRa using a custom packet. And then the receiver in the boat receives the LoRa message from the tag, and then it's connected over the serial lines to the flight controller and uses regular MAVLink. When it's using follow me mode, it's actually using the guided mode and sending the tag's position. I thought this would be more flexible for me than using the follow me mode that's part of ardupilot, but you could easily change this if that one would work better. It's worth pointing out that there are other ways to do this. Most ground stations have the ability to do a follow me mode, so if you're okay taking your laptop or your phone with you, then you can do that without making custom modules. Anyway, now that the hardware is built, let's take it down to the beach. Well, hello there. I'm at Sherman Island, where the Sacramento River meets the San Joaquin River to start San Francisco Bay. And I'm going to take my autonomous sailboat Nemo and put a camera on it and then use this tracker that I made that's in a case here. I'm gonna see if this standalone device can talk to a matching device on the boat and track me to film me while I wing foil. So it's a combination of my ardupilot hobby and the wing foiling hobby. Hopefully it makes ardupilot more fun and not winging less fun. We'll see. So the plan is to put the boat in the water and test it with this tag and me on shore first. It has options to turn the motors off, go home, return to launch mode, hold its current position, and then follow me using the GPS up here, and obviously the GPS on the boat will follow this. So this is doing Mavlink communication. It looks like another ground station, and this also shows up on my ground station, so I can see kind of what's going on. I bench tested it a lot. I range tested it at home, and seems pretty good for at least 1 kilometer, and line of sight on the water is decent. So we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to try to figure out how fast I can make the boat go. Then I'll rig up my wing foiling stuff and see if I can get any footage. So wish me luck. It's kind of a complicated system, and it's a windy day, so let's go. So the first thing I had to do was figure out how fast Nemo could go. This isn't something I've really explored, so I set up a autonomous waypoint path with 3 waypoints and set it to go around them so I could see how it did. I usually wing foil about 15 knots, and I didn't want to push it that fast, so I set the cruise speed initially to be 3 meters per second, which is about 6 knots. So this won't let it keep up with me the whole time, but my plan is to use the follow me mode to move it around and then have it hold position in loiter mode, so this should work okay. Okay, well here's what I learned from the testing. The speed seems to work. Faster seems pretty violent though, so we're going to stick with 6 knots at least for these tests. Notice that it stops to turn at each waypoint. There's a setting that specifies when to stop and pivot rather than just steer in an arc. And if the angle between where it's heading and where it's going is large, then it will pivot. You're going to see this again when it's chasing me, and it does slow down the chase. But pivots are safer than wide turns because you can predict the boat's path easier. It doesn't stray outside the line as far. Another thing I noticed is that maybe the camera pole should be a little bit longer. The camera's getting wet from these waves that aren't the biggest waves ever. But again, that's going to stress the mount a little more, so I'm testing it the way it is right now. But overall, it's working good, so I think it's time to turn on the tag and test the new system. So when I turn on the tag, you'll notice that it shows up on the ground station as a quadcopter icon that looks like a little plus. That's what the tag's identifying itself in the Mavlink stream, so we can see where I am and where the boat's trying to chase. So what do you think happens if you're on shore and you tell your boat to follow me? That's right. So I was testing it. I intended to turn on follow me and then put it back into loiter mode before it hit me, but unfortunately the lag was bigger than I anticipated, and it takes a couple of seconds to fully change modes. So it changed modes to loiter right on the rocks, which meant it was trying to spin around and hold position and listen to the grinding noises. It wasn't pretty, but the system works. That was one of the tests that I did. get correct that day.
Alright, it's in hold mode.
Let's go.
There. I'm gonna try to put it in go home mode now. Should come back to me, and then I'm gonna put it in hold. There's a big lag, so not very long in home. Coming at me. I'm gonna go right into hold here. It takes a little while. There it goes. That's why I ran it up on the beach. Not accounting for the lag. Alright, I guess I'm gonna take it out, see how wet it is inside, and have some lunch. How's sailing? First test went well with me on land, so I'm rigging everything up, and I'm gonna try it in the water.
I got the board rigged up, and the boat is still ready to go. I rigged up a 4.5 wing. It's blowing about 20 knots, and it's a Monday afternoon. There are only a few people out, and I'm set up downwind of them. So down here, hopefully nobody will be where I'm operating, and it should be perfectly safe to run this kind of complicated boat. Let's see what happens.
Alright, here we go. Wish us all luck.
So once I get all my gear rigged up and change into my wetsuit, here's what has to happen. I'm going to launch the boat and put it into loiter mode by driving it with the radio controlled set just a little ways offshore, put it into loiter mode. Then I'm going to go back to the car and check the ground station, make sure everything looks good. Then I'll lock the ground station, laptop, and the transmitter into the car. Then I get the GPS tag and I strap it onto my wrist so I can use both hands to wing foil. You'll notice I'm wearing sunglasses in the video because I can't read the screen on the GPS tag, which doesn't show up so well in the videos either, but it is a useful thing, so I have my sunglasses on so I can read the display because I'm an old guy. And I'm wearing a GoPro on my head for additional footage, and it tends to get tangled in the leashes with the wing sometimes. And then my plan is to go out and sail around the boat in loiter mode, have the boat stay in one place and I sail around it a little bit, and then test how well it can follow me. So this is what it looks like when the boat's holding position and I'm sailing around it. The boat is a great camera platform in loiter mode. It holds its position just fine and has no trouble with these conditions. The Insta360 camera makes it really easy to frame your shots so you can't see the boat or don't need to see the boat. The GPS tag is in the bag strapped to my wrist, which is a little awkward, especially when I'm pumping the wing to get going, but it didn't fall off and I was able to see the display and also to push the buttons just fine. So the loiter mode test works well, and so I'm going to press the button now and put it into follow me mode and see what happens when it tries to chase me around. I sailed over to shore and sat down on my board to engage the follow me mode so I could see what was happening. You can see the map on the screen. Remember that the GPS tag is the plus sign that looks like a quadcopter, and the boat is the little yellow boat icon. The boat comes right over as requested. The boat shouldn't hit me. The target position that the boat is aiming at is is my position if the boat is more than 2 meters away, but when it gets closer than that, the target position gets set to the boat's position, which should make it stop because it's at its position. But the GPS on the tag is not a great one, it's a small one, and it's not pointed up most of the time, so the errors on its position are sometimes big enough that the boat gets pretty close or tries to pass through me. I should probably update the code to make the circle bigger for the next test. But it's going slow and nothing bad happens. Once I get going, the boat has no trouble following me and gets a nice video as well. Because the boat's maximum speed is around 6 knots, once I get up on the foil and get going fast, the boat just does the best it can and aims at my current position. So here I'm going to sail away and it's going to do its best to chase me, but I just get farther away until I turn back around. And then when I go past, remember that when the angle between the angle to me and the boat's heading gets too large, the boat's going to stop and do a pivot turn. So it loses ground, but it also has a nice predictable path where it's pretty much always on the straight line between it and you, rather than some big arcing circle to get towards me. So it's totally working great. This is really as good as I expected it to work. One thing I did learn when I was playing around like this with the follow me mode was that you want to make sure that there isn't a person between you and the boat, because the boat will head for that person instead. So you have to be aware of what's between you and the boat at all times. So here I put it back into loiter mode and I'm going to leave the boat there and keep on wing foiling. Well, the wind made the audio unusable, but this is me at the end of the day, happy with the system so far. The tests that I did were successful, and I learned how to operate the whole system a little bit better, and a couple of dinged propellers were the only casualty of my tests. In terms of next steps, I think there's a lot of potential in this system. I think the tag could do more. It would be neat to have maybe a mini joystick on it so you could do manual control as well as the automatic control modes. And then you could leave the RC controller and the laptop behind and just use the boat and the tag. I think the tag's case could be made smaller and maybe watertight on its own. That would make it easier to wear on your wrist if you're actually going to use this for wing foiling or something similar. Both the tag and the boat receiver use ESP-32 processors, and they have Wi-Fi that I'm not using for anything right now. So there's the option to maybe pass telemetry along to the laptop, maybe have web pages for configuration or other uses that I haven't thought of. Because this system uses Mavlink, it could also control a flying drone, not just a boat. So it would take just a little bit of updates to the Mavlink sentences, mostly to include the altitude command, but not too many other changes. So this could totally work with a quadcopter instead of the autonomous boat. Well, reach out or leave a comment if you see a neat use for this project. And as always, you can find more details and code and everything else at www.holdentechnology.com. Thanks for watching.